It all starts with our protagonist, Kuran, a young student who heads out early in the morning to train because he is part of the Blazers Academy, where those approved by the organization will be referred to as Magic Knights. However, Kuran trains more than usual because, in this world, hierarchy is very important. He also remembers the words given to him by a man when he was young, saying that if he feels bad for being weak, he shouldn't worry because that feeling will motivate him to do his best. Remembering that, he summons Tetsu, and in his hand appears a katana because blazers are special creatures who can manifest their weapons in the form of weapons and control their abilities with magical power. Because of this, Kuran has to train harder to achieve his dream of becoming a magic knight. After training, Kuran returns to his room. Upon arriving and entering, he finds a girl changing clothes. On the other hand, Kuran does not let the girl speak and says that he knows what she did wrong, but to be in the same situation, he says he will undress as well and be in the same condition. After that, a few minutes later, Kuran is taken to the headmaster's room because of the girl's accusation. The headmaster says that this academy has an international reputation because its students are the main winners of the Magic Knight tournament. He also scolds Kuran for behaving like that. On the other hand, Kuran apologizes because he only wants to behave like a knight. At that moment, the girl enters, named Stella, known as the Red Princess of Japan. Kuran apologizes to her for what he has done, but the girl does not want to accept the simple apology. She says that Kuran must leave the academy. Kuran, of course, refuses, and this makes the girl very angry to the point of starting to emit her magical power. Kuran, on the other hand, praises the princess by saying that she is very beautiful, and this manages to calm her down. In addition, he says that the girl is in his room, so he enters it. On the other hand, the headmaster says that he has to explain something about this because now they will both be roommates. Kuran doesn't understand anything about this and asks why someone like the Red Princess, who has a very high ranking, would be with him. Stella, on the other hand, is surprised to find out that Kuran is the weakest in the academy. The headmaster explains that his rank is the lowest in all ranks because his unique ability only slightly increases his physical level. The headmaster says that this is true because he has the lowest magic average in the academy, and that is precisely why he decided to put them together. Stella, on the other hand, refused to share a room, so the headmaster said that there was only one way to settle it: they must duel, and whoever wins will decide the rules of living in this place. Stella, on the other hand, told the headmaster that they couldn't duel because it would be very unfair based on Kuran's level. Kuran said that he didn't need to worry about that and accepted the duel. The headmaster, after hearing confirmation of the duel, told them to wait for an hour in the training field to simulate the battle. After that, Kuran was the first to arrive, and the headmaster said he was surprised to learn that Kuran accepted to fight against the princess. Kuran replied that his reason for doing this is because he has to prove his level of ability. He has to win the 7-star tournament. If successful, he could graduate as a holy knight even though his level is average. He was also told that to achieve this goal, he had to fight the best. At that moment, the princess arrived and ordered him to surrender. However, Kuran refused because he had worked hard to become the best. His words reminded the princess that he had once fought those who believed that hard training could defeat those who were talented. But the princess, besides having magical talent, had also trained hard. At that moment, the simulated battle began, where they would fight in ghost mode and their abilities would not hurt the opponent but would drain physical energy. Whoever manages to deplete the opponent's energy will win this battle. Kuran summoned his weapon and Stella also summoned her sword amidst the fire pillar. After that, the princess attacked Kuran, who began to dodge all her attacks. After a while, the princess admitted that he was very good at dodging. Kuran replied that the princess also had many abilities and realized that it was not just talent. However, he said that he had found the princess's sword technique, which surprised him that someone like him could realize it. After saying this, Kuran attacked the princess with magical powers that had the same technique as Stella. The princess was surprised to see his power and asked if he had stolen her technique. Kuran began to attack her and replied that no one ever taught him any technique because of his low level. He said that he had specialized in a technique called blade stale, which allowed him to counter and fight back using that technique. The princess decided to attack him with a fake attack first and then a strong one. After thinking about this, she attempted her technique, but Kuran avoided the first attack and blocked the second, saying it wasn't her technique and improvisation wouldn't help much in this fight. Then he pushed the princess and used his technique, successfully hitting her shoulder. However, Kuran's technique didn't hurt her because the princess knew that the weapon couldn't harm her due to her magical level. Nevertheless, she told Kuran that she had decided to fight with a sword to show that she could defeat him. However, she also acknowledged her respect for Kuran for the fight and began summoning her special magic attacks, creating waves of fire. Kurigane didn't intend to be defeated so easily and knew it was time to use all his power. He invoked a technique that made him appear behind Stella. The princess was surprised to see him move so fast, and Kurigane said that he didn't power himself up, but rather used all his magical power, concentrating all his vital energy in 1 minute, and releasing it with full force. He called this ability Noveler, which he created himself, enhancing his physical and magical abilities. After avoiding Stella's attacks, Kurigane fought back, draining all the physical strength of the princess in one slash. After that, Kurigane fell to the ground exhausted for having used all his energy, although he managed to come out on top. After the winner of this duel, after some time, Stella woke up and the headmaster came in to see how she was recovering. The headmaster explained that Stella was in the process of recovery, although he explained that the technique she used could only be used once a day. He also said that this technique consumed so much of her vital energy that she was even more tired than Stella. Isel, hearing this, asked the headmaster why someone with such abilities was in rank F. The headmaster replied that the problem lay in the way blazers were assessed because only magical power and how much they could control magic were evaluated. However, on the other hand, skills such as swordsmanship, speed, or physical strength were not evaluated. Therefore, Kurigane was demoted to this rank. The headmaster also said that what impressed him most about Kurigane was that every time he tried to embarrass him, Kurigane always tried and never stopped practicing, so he believed Stella to be his partner. Because he knew that Stella was considered a genius and best of all, having someone like Kurigane could make her see things differently, unlike anyone else. After this, Stella entered the room and found Kurigane sleeping. She approached to see if he wasn't pretending, also attempting to disturb Kurigane for what he had done earlier. However, at that moment, Aiki woke up and asked what the girl was doing. Hearing this, she was startled and hit her head. After that, Stella apologized for judging him without really knowing him. Kurigane replied that it was okay and reminded her that as the winner, she should serve him according to his orders. Therefore, Kurigane said that his only request was for them to be roommates. He also said that he wanted to get to know her better and hoped they could become good friends. Stella, on the other hand, also accepted this request, so they became roommates. The next day, Kurigane went for a run with Isla, who decided to accompany him. However, the girl was not used to so much exercise and was very tired. After this, as they rested while drinking water, Stella asked Kurigane why he was so happy. Kei replied that he was happy because today his younger sister would enter the academy. Besides, he was happy because he would meet her again after years. In class, the teacher explained that this time the selection of candidates for this year's tournament would be different. Previously, the academy selected those with the best averages, but because the results had not been good in recent years, now those selected were those who won the duel competition at the academy. Therefore, everyone had to fight against an opponent. The top 6 winners would go to the tournament. Hearing this, Kurigane felt very excited because he could participate, but when the teacher explained everything, he suddenly fell to the floor. After that, in panic, Kurigane took him to the infirmary. There, the teacher thanked them because he had been sick for a long time and did not expect such a thing to happen in class. Kurigane then reminded the teacher to take care of his health and explained to Stella that this teacher was one of those who helped him get into the academy. As they left the infirmary, Kurigane spoke with Stella, explaining the teacher's comments about last year being very difficult. He explained that the teacher said that because he couldn't attend classes the previous year. However, their conversation was interrupted when Kurigane heard a voice calling him. He immediately recognized the voice and began to search in all directions, but didn't find it until he finally saw his sister, Shizuku, who was very excited and approached Kurigane in a very strange way. People around them were very surprised. Even Stella asked why Shizuku did that. Shizuku replied that it was a common greeting in other countries and she wanted to welcome her brother in a very friendly manner. However, Stella decided to stop them and told Shizuku that she was Kurigane's servant, explaining that it was an agreement when she lost in a duel. This comment drew more students' attention who wanted to know what was happening, and Shizuku became very angry knowing that Kurigane had a girl. Shizuku then summoned her weapon to fight against the princess, and Stella also drew her weapon. Kurigane tried to stop them but failed, and both started to fight. After a while, they both were punished for using weapons outside the training area, and they had to clean the girls' bathroom as punishment. The headmaster said that this punishment was fair because usually they would be expelled, but since they were new students, the punishment was arranged accordingly. After that, the two girls continued to argue while serving their punishment, and when the punishment was over, Shizuku warned Stella to stay away from her brother, saying that she didn't understand Kurigane's feelings and didn't know how it felt to be ignored. After saying that, Shizuku went to her room while Stella pondered what had been said. Several hours later, Kurigane finished training and found Stella waiting for him at the door. The girl asked about what Shizuku had said, and Kurigane explained everything, including about Ryuma Kurigane, his grandfather who was one of the great leaders in the Japanese Liberation War. Since then, the Kurigane family has been known to have many famous and powerful blazers. However, because Kurogane didn't have the same strength as other family members, he had been ignored since childhood. All family events and meetings treated him as if he didn't exist. This bothered him so much that one day he couldn't take it anymore and ran into the forest, but then got caught in a snowstorm. At first, he thought he would give up, but then came his grandfather, who gave him words that he would never forget for the rest of his life. His grandfather told him that he had to turn his weaknesses and fears into his greatest strength. It should be his motivation to strive harder and become one of the best magic knights. Since then, Kurogane wanted to be as strong as his grandfather. However, on the other hand, his family opposed him and did not support him at all. After some time, when he successfully entered the academy and felt that his dream was about to come true, his family pressured the graduation ranking rules to be changed. This is why he has the worst grades in the academy. Although it didn't make him stop practicing, it motivated him to become stronger than ever. However, he always had to practice alone because no one wanted to teach him. Meanwhile, Stella was impressed by his story and remembered when she also practiced alone. So they decided to help each other become stronger from then on because both of them had experienced very difficult situations. At the same time, Shizuku explained to her roommate that she loved her brother very much. When she realized how her family treated her, she began to hate everything they did. She decided that she would give him all the love that was never given to him by her parents or her family. Her friend, Nagi, replied that this was a very understandable reason and promised to always help her whenever she needed a friend. The next day, Kurogane practiced with Stella in his sword skills. After they finished, he asked if Stella had received information about her opponent. Stella explained that her opponent was a boy from the 3rd grade. Kurogane knew him and they began to talk about the skills that the opponent had. However, Stella didn't want him to talk too much because she preferred not to know too much about her opponent and just focus on being ready to face him in any situation. Kurogane felt strange about Stella's way of thinking because they were both very different. When the bell rang, Stella wanted to ask Kurogane out on a date because they didn't have class the next day. However, they were disturbed by a message received by Kurogane from his younger sister asking him to meet her the next day. Kurogane accepted the invitation from his sister and the next day he met with his sister and his sister's roommate. Kurogane also came with Stella. They all met and his sister introduced Nagi to Kurogane. Kurogane was surprised to see how confident his sister was in Nagi, but Nagi told him not to worry because he preferred men, especially men like Kurogane. Nevertheless, Shizuku didn't like those words and threatened her friend. Then they went together to the shopping center to have something to eat. However, Shizuku was still trying to make Stella jealous of her closeness to her brother. Meanwhile, a group of guys entered the place and started causing chaos. Kurogane along with his group found them eating ice cream on Naga's recommendation. Everyone enjoyed their food and Kurogane wiped a little ice cream that stuck to his sister's lips. Stella felt jealous seeing this behavior and deliberately approached Kurogane. Seeing her, Kurogane decided to get a tissue to clean it, but he told them to go to the toilet first. Nagi accompanied her to the toilet and there Kurogane thanked her for taking care of his sister. He knew that his sister wouldn't usually trust someone so quickly, but Nagi said it was okay because she treated him like her own sister. At that moment, Nagi heard strange noises and told Kurogane, and 2 masked men burst in the door roughly and began shooting in all directions in the bathroom. After finishing the attack, they realized that there was no one in the place and continued the search because they had to make sure there was no one in the place. Meanwhile, Kurogane, along with Nagi, emerged from a portal created by the young man with his magic who summoned his weapons. The young man explained to Kurogane that his weapons utilized shadows to help him move between places. On the other hand, they realized that the shooters were kidnappers and might have already taken over the entire shopping center. They thought they had to do something to defeat them. At that moment, they made a hole in the wall to save the other girls. After a while, they arrived at the control room and found the guards unconscious. Kurogane spoke with the director who explained that the police had surrounded the place but said it was not easy to get in because of the defenses the kidnappers had. He also explained that the kidnappers were a group of criminals led by a blazer. He permitted them to use their weapons this time but asked them not to act recklessly. Meanwhile, all the women and children had been taken hostage. Shizuku spoke with Stella who had a plan but needed time. At that moment, one of the armed men pushed a woman who screamed at him, and the woman's daughter threw ice cream at him. The man began shooting, but Stella activated her magical powers and protected the child. She then approached the man, stating that she didn't want to fight and preferred to talk to his leader. At that moment, an attacker emerged from the shadows and told him to stop. He then explained that he had ordered not to touch the hostages. The kidnapper then explained that the child had insulted him and had to be punished. His leader understood but said it wasn't the child who should be punished, but her mother. He said that the woman had to pay for her child's behavior. Stella, angry, summoned her weapon and attacked the blazer, but he used his magical power to stop her attack and knock her down. He taunted her, saying he knew she was a princess, but she needed to learn more about the evils of this world and the various weapons available. He explained that he had a ring that could restrain and absorb his opponent's attacks. He also said that there was a way to avoid this situation, which was for Stella, as a princess, to take the woman's place. Meanwhile, Kurogane observed from above, trying to intervene, but Nagi insisted they wait for the right moment. On the other hand, Stella began doing what the kidnappers asked. Shizuku completed the spell, and a water barrier surrounded them all. The men started to attack but failed. Kurogane then decided to summon his weapon, catching the leader's attention. Everyone began attacking, but Kurogane leaped, only getting grazed by a few bullets. He then used his special ability, seeing everything move in slow motion, allowing him to move quickly and find an effective way to defeat the Blazer after a brief observation. He discovered and attacked the boss from behind, preventing the boss from turning around and successfully using his sword to sever its arm using the 7th secret sword. Meanwhile, the man fell to the ground in pain and ordered his comrades to eliminate Kurogane, but instead, the guards were eliminated by Stella, who took care of everything with seals. After all this, Kurogane knelt due to the effects of his technique. At the same time, a woman grabbed Riina, a member of the kidnapping group disguised as a civilian, threatening to harm her if they didn't release their boss. But at that moment, laughter and gunfire were heard. From the shadows emerged a boy, and Kurogane recognized him as Kirihara. The boy greeted Kurogane and assured him he was still at the academy. As they left the place, Kirihara received all the credit for saving everyone while Kurogane approached the boy for his help. The boy stated his duty was to assist the weaker ones and mocked Kurogane for still being at the academy. Stell intervened, saying Kurogane was even stronger than anyone else, but Kirihara mocked him, saying he didn't know everything because Kurogane fled last year when they were supposed to duel. He also told Kurogane that he had a more important surprise in store. The first to face Kirihara would be decided by a duel request, so he hoped Kurogane wouldn't run away like last year. The next day, Stella won her duel against a giant knight who surrendered upon seeing the power emanating from her. It was evident in those duels that there was real damage, and many feared for their lives. Shizuku and Nagi won their duel and advanced to the next round, while Kurogane continued to check the duel requests, where Kirihara effortlessly defeated a girl. At that moment, Estelle arrived, asking if Kurogane was worried. Kurogane explained that the boy's ability was perfect camouflage, as he even hid his scent and shot from an unseen location. So, he said this is why they call him the perfect hunter, and this type of skill is the worst for Kurogane, even though on the other side he knows that Kirihara wouldn't face someone like Stella because he always seeks out the weakest and those he can't defeat without too much effort. Nonetheless, he tells Stella that he has an idea and hopes with this he can defeat Kirihara in tomorrow's duel. Kurogane goes for a run on the street for a while. He meets Nagi, who immediately greets him and asks about the rumors he heard at school because of some confrontations Kurogane experienced earlier with this boy. Kurogane explains that the year before, Kurogane's family had connections with the academy's leadership and tried to drive him out by any means possible, so this is one of the reasons. Kirihara approached Kurogane one day and challenged him to a duel in the middle of the academy, but Kurogane refused to participate. However, the boy immediately attacked him with his arrows, so Kurogane knew he couldn't use his weapons or be provoked because if he did, he would be expelled from the academy. He only defended himself from the attack, so he wasn't punished or expelled in the end. Nagi, hearing this, understands Kurogane and realizes that Ikki has been oppressed all this time, making him understand that Kurogane doesn't realize how much he's suffering. However, he hopes that one day Kurogane will meet someone who helps him realize how much he's suffering. Then Kurogane heads to the waiting room for his duel and receives the risk reported to us. But at the same time, behind Kurogane, Nin appears. She's surprised that Kurogane knows her name and she says she's famous and knows her friendship with the headmaster, who appears at the same time and takes her away so as not to disturb the students' preparations. After that, Kurogane tries to relax, even though in a few minutes the battle will begin. However, he remembers everything he's been through and strives to get this chance, making him afraid at that moment. However, he is called to start the duel and heads to the place. When he arrives, everyone applauds and celebrates Keijara, who mocks Kurogane for accepting the duel and warns him that he will defeat him. However, Kurogane challenges him to try. At the same time, the duel begins. Kirihara starts using his special abilities and creates camouflage around, but Kurogane concentrates and can see the direction of the arrows, so he can block them. He also hears the boy's voice and can attack him. However, Kirihara disappears again and says it won't be easy to find him again, then tells him where he will attack. After that, Kurogane is attacked and injured, making him realize that the arrows are not visible. Kirihara also jokes that he has also improved his ability to make his attacks with arrows invisible. Then, he continues to attack various parts of the body. Meanwhile, Stella wonders why Kurogane didn't attack earlier and why he remained silent. Nagi realizes it's because of his nervousness since it's his first time in an official duel, making it difficult for him to make decisions at that moment. Stella remembers Kuragane's words before the duel that he would win. Kirahara continues to mock Kuragane and attacks him again. He also reveals that Kuragane has a special condition to pass, which is to win the 7-star tournament, making all the students laugh because Kuragane is only a rank F student and some say he only won because of luck against Stella and won't be able to win such a tournament. Kirahara began pushing them to continue mocking Kuragane in various ways and with attacks from behind, causing Kuragane to fall. Stella, angered, rose and demanded everyone to be silent, then gave support to Kuragane, asking him not to give up and stating that she believed he could win. Kuragane heard her and rose again with more determination than before because of the princess's words and support. Kirahara continued his mockery towards the princess and planned to finish the duel. Kuragane was annoyed with him for trying to get rid of Stella, and at that moment he activated his ability, causing time to slow down and he began to remember again.